Everyone, magandang hapon. Thank you for that lengthy introduction. I hope that allowed everyone to get to know me a little bit. First, I would like to thank Ateneo de Naga University, Sir Sunny Verta, Sir Gerald Kaayo for inviting me again this year. I was here last year and I'm here again. Thank you so much for uh, inviting me once again. I am overwhelmed by the number of attendees in today's session. I was preparing for a small crowd, but this is good. I see some students, some student affairs practitioners, and some of our colleagues from PAPSAS. I hope you're able to get something out of today's presentation, and I hope as well that you will get the chance to we will get the chance to interact with one another later if you have any questions. My presentation this afternoon may not be very technical, as I've been hearing from the feedback in today's sessions, in the earlier session today. But hopefully you'll get something out of my presentation this afternoon. So thank you very much. Like was introduced, I'm Tats, and I'm with Ateneo University. And the topic that was given to me today for the presentation today is actually collaborative communication and creativity and change. And when I tried to understand and interpret that invitation, at the very heart of collaborative communication and creativity and change, especially in our context of today's pandemic, is really stakeholder engagement, how we are able to react, provide services, and lead the people that we are saying yes to on a daily basis. But to give a sort of title to my presentation, it's Reimagine Courage. And as we go along with my presentation today, hopefully you'll find out why this is the title of today's presentation. If you notice the QR code at the corner of my presentation, you may scan the QR code for a copy of this presentation, or you may also open that QR code so you can find the presentation in your mobiles, in your iPads, or cell phones so that you can have access to the presentation as well outside the one on your screens para meron din kayong control. Pero wag niyo unahan para hindi naman kayo ma-spoiler, di ba? So anyway, so it's Reimagine Courage. And why Reimagine Courage? I'm hoping that we are able to talk about courage today. I'm hoping that all of us are familiar with what courage and its context in today's time. Why not hope? Because while hope and holding on to hope will keep our heads above water, I'm talking about courage today because courage really is what will move us forward. Courage is what will allow us to collaborate, do collaborative communication, and also courage is what will fuel our creativity in these changing times. And so we need an abundance of courage. And that's the first thing I'm hoping that all of you guys will embark on. Maging matapang. Muna. Yun yung unang hiling. Bakit? Well, this is our life now. And whether we like it or not, our pre-pandemic ways are a thing of the past. Tapos na yun. Even if suddenly, by some magical force or power, the virus disappears or we achieve herd immunity or suddenly we're asked to go back to our quote-unquote face-to-face interactions, our lives have been altered permanently. Nagbago na. Our work from home setup, all this online mode of education, this might be here for a longer time. And we need to understand how our spaces have adjusted, how our lives have changed, and maybe begin to accept that the way we used to gather as a community, as a school, as friends, the way we used to see each other in the context of the pre-pandemic ways may no longer be possible. And so the first one I ask you is courage. The second is acceptance of the fact that this is our life now. And it might include a little discomfort. That's why I call this generation, your generation, the students here with us today, I call your generation the unexpected transition generation. You are the generation caught in the middle of transitioning from our pre-pandemic life to a life lived in the context of a global phenomenon, a virus, climate change, and in fact, even to make it more local in the Philippines, maybe even a political turmoil. So you are a transition generation. What does that mean? Maybe a lot of it involves uncovering. You are the generation that will have to take notice and take stock of everything that's going on around you, because the world is taking a large pivot. The world is changing. And what that means as well is that we might have to deal with an initial discomfort. Medyo meron tayong mga birthing pains. Medyo masakit sa simula kasi nga nagbabago. And every spring cleaning will always allow us and ask of us moving the furnitures, throwing away things that may no longer be necessary, etc. So there might be a little initial discomfort that your generation will have to deal with. What are these initial discomforts? I could name three. First, there's what we call a norm shift. Nagbabago ang ating mga batayan, ang ating tinatawag na normal life, nagbabago. So, ibig sabihin, the pandemic, sabi ni Pope Francis, the pandemic revealed what we value, kung ano mga pinapahalagahan. The pandemic revealed many gaps, but also revealed many affirmations. Maybe the question is, what do you see now from where you are, given everything that's changing around you? The ground has shifted, and so our point of view might have shifted as well. Our perspective might have shifted as well, and the way we understand things might have shifted as well. And what would that lead to is a little bit of sense making. As student leaders, one of your main tasks is to make sure that whatever is going on, it will make sense to the people that you are serving. And so because there is a shifting of norms and a shifting of lifestyle, a shifting of perspective, then there is what we call a need for sense making. Because life now is offering us a lot of resilience, requiring factors, changes, okay? And sometimes we will end up with, tama pa ba to? Bakit ko pa ba ginagawa to? Di na nagme-make sense, etc. Di ko na naiintindihan. Pagod na ako. Yung sinasabi nilang burnout, burnout actually starts with fire. Kasi kung wala namang fire, walang nababurnout. Diba? So, burnout is things not making sense despite still the presence of fire. Mahal ko naman itong ginagawa ko. Gusto ko naman to, but parang hindi nagme-make sense. Because biglang ginulo, meron tayong disruptive energy na pumasok sa buhay natin at biglang lahat tayo taken aback. And so, the question perhaps to ask here is, how do we make sense of what doesn't make sense? And those that make sense to us, we are humanly obliged to make it make sense to those who matter to us. Di ba? Kunyari, pag merong mga bata na lumalapit sa atin, may mga tanong di naiintindihan, sinusubukan nating ipaliwanag. And I think that's what we are called to do during this pandemic. Help one another make sense of what's going on. Make sense. At the end of the day, we are just walking each other home, telling one another why things happen and how it makes sense. But it's not only that we make ourselves aware of the shifting norms, or what we call the norm shift, and it's not only that we are called to respond to sense making, but more importantly, we are called to a future proofing kind of skill. We need not be caught off guard by this pandemic. We had time to prepare, but like they say, nothing could have prepared us for this. But the past is done. We are here already. The best we could do is prepare and future-proof future-proof our life in the future so that if something like this happens again, our systems, our methods, our lifestyle could be a little bit prepared. The best way to predict the future is to create it. And the power to create it is in our hands. If you watch yung mga time travel movies, it's funny because in time travel movies, whenever someone is about to embark on traveling to the past, they're always warned not to change anything. Because if you change even a single little thing in the past, will have a big repercussion, a big change altering the future. So if you travel to the past, don't change anything because it will change the future. In the same manner that because we are here right now, our future selves will look at this as the past. So we have the power now to change things in order for us to shape how that future will be. In the same manner na kung may binabago tayong konti sa past, mababago ang future, ganun din, may kakayahan tayo ngayon na paghandaan, future-proof our future so that we know exactly, hopefully, how we want it to be. So in other words, the three questions to simplify these three things: norm shift, what do we desire? Ayan. Ano na ba ang nagbago sa mga pinapangarap natin sa buhay? Pero what do we really desire is what will make sense. The changing times, the norm shift will allow us to ask again what we want, what we desire. But as we go towards making sense of what's going on, it's asking of us, but what do we really desire? Ano kaibahan? Pag nanonood kayo ng mga TV show, or mga movies, I write films, so I know exactly what the difference between what you're doing and what you're really doing. You know, minsan, di ba, papasok ka sa room, kunyari, ang gusto mong gawin ay kukuha ka ng ball pen. Pero what you actually want to do is gusto mong makinig sa pinag-uusapan ng dalawang tao na nasa room. So your intention, your business of entering into the room is to get the ball pen, but your real desire is to really listen to what's going on. So while norm shifts will allow us to look at the things that we want and desire for things in our life, sense making will bring us back to the things that really matter. Ano ba talaga ang gusto ko? Kung gusto kong pumunta doon sa lugar na yan, ano ba talagang gusto kong puntahan doon? Gusto kong mag-mall. Gusto kong mag-mall dahil, di ba? Iba yung gising sa bumabangon. Maraming taong gising lang, maraming sinasabi sa sarili nila, gusto ko A, gusto ko B, gusto ko C, pero hindi naman lahat handang bumangon, gumising, maligo, mag-commute at pumunta sa kung nasaan pwedeng kunin yung sabi nilang gusto. Parang ang daming nagsasabing, gusto kong magka-jowa. Ayan, gusto kong magka-jowa. Pero, hindi naman lahat handang ibigay yung effort, time, patience that it requires to maintain a relationship. Diba? So, a lot of people are only in love with the mission, but not with the relationships required to enlist in that mission. So while we ask what do we desire, we need to ask what do we really desire? Gusto ko to, pero gusto ko ba talaga to? Ano ba talagang gusto ko dito? Di ba? Iba ang gising sa bumabangon. But we also need to ask, what do we hope our desires will accomplish? Ibig sabihin, dahil ginusto mo yan, pag nakuha mo, anong magbabago? It's one thing to ask for more money, but it's another thing to realize what will more money do in your life. Because for every desire, there is an outcome and an impact that we need to face. There are consequences for desiring the things that we want. Sometimes we don't realize that we have to prepare for the things that we want. That's what future-proofing is all about. When you pray for something, pray also to prepare yourself for getting what you want. Sometimes, what we want, what we desire, get delayed because the delay is the preparation. We are delayed at some point because we need preparation at some point. Most people are afraid of rejection, but I believe there's no such thing as rejection, only redirection. Some doors don't open because they are not doors for you. Your door is somewhere else, and at that point, what is rejecting you is an arrow pointing you to a different direction. And so sometimes we need to be thankful for unanswered prayers or delays, because there is a cosmic timing to everything. The best we can do is prepare, future-proof. Diba? Wag nating i-ankla, let's not anchor ourselves to, for example, in love. I'm sorry, but love is always the most common example. For example, in love, let's not anchor our desires in people, but anchor ourselves in our ideal self, in our dreams, in bettering our situation. Because once we become better people, the right people will arrive. You know, mahirap if we anchor our dreams to people and then they fail us, and then we also feel like we are the failure. So in other words, future proofing is making sure that we are prepared for the world that we are hoping to happen. And so everything else that will come will just be bonus. Okay. So norm shift, sense making, future proofing. What do these things mean? It means that perhaps given the new context of the pandemic, given the new context of our new normal, we need a new playbook. Okay. And this playbook will have to adapt to this different normal. It will have to move beyond change, just wanting to change, and towards transformation. And I'd like to differentiate change and transformation. We can be competent in change. Ang galing nating mag-manage ng pagbabago. But can we also get ahead of the curve and start leading transformation? Paglabas pa dun sa pagbabago, yung what we desire, what we really desire, what will our desire accomplish? Hindi lang pagbabago, pero anong mangyayari pag may nagbago? And in this context, I'd like to bring your attention to 4 items: input, output, outcome, and impact. And these are the things in your organization, in your college life, in your universities. These are the things that we need to look into. Input is what we pay attention to, what we allow inside. Kumbaga, ito yung ingredients pag nagluluto ka. Naghahanda ka ng mga sili, asin, sili talaga yung una ko naisip kasi Bicol, mahilig sa maanghang. Tama ba? Mga asukal, paminta, toyo, etc. So, these are the things that you input, what you pay attention what you pay attention to around you. Mga bagay, ito yung nag-involve ng environmental scanning, mga surveys, etc. Given the input, output is what you produce because of what you pay attention to. At the end of gathering your ingredients, nakaproduce ka ng laing, ganyan. So meron kang nailuto. After meron kang nailuto, it doesn't end there because the output is not the end goal. The output will have to produce an outcome. What are these outcomes? These are changes because of what you have produced. Dahil nag-produce ka ng magandang webinar, dahil nag-produce ka ng masarap na pagkain, dahil nag-produce ka ng magandang event, anong nagbago? Di ba? What has changed? Because you said you produced this. Because you said this is something that I'm putting out into the world. Nag-tweet ka, nag-post ka. That's an output that you'd like to post into the world. What changed because of what you produced? Okay? But again, we don't end with the outcome, with what the changes of what we produce, because what we're really looking at, organizations should really look at impact. And impact are what results from the changes. So meron kang input na pinasok, nakapag-produce ka ng something, and that something allowed changes around you. And because of the changes, this is what it is now. Merong impact. And impact is what we hope our efforts will ultimately accomplish. All these things about collaborative communication, all these things about creativity in change, it's aimed towards impact. Impacts are what we hope for, but outcomes are what we work for. And that has to be differentiated. No, we work for outcomes. We produce things that will cause changes around us, hoping that the changes will result into the kind of future that we want. And that's where I hope to bring the discussion in differentiating change versus transformation. Because, like I said, change may just be talking about outcome, but we want to talk about impact, which is transformation. So we need to move from just doing things to change things around us into looking at what the changes will bring us. So we need to move in this new playbook from change to transformation. What's the difference? Well, one, change is basically problem solving because there is a problem. I'm going to do something to solve that. But transformation, if you want to talk about impact, it's visionary organizing. You see something so beautiful, you bring people to stand where you're standing so they too can see what you're seeing, and you together can aim for that kind of growth. So it's inviting people to the vision that you see and organizing them around it. It's not just problem solving, but it's really visionary transformation. It's organizing people around a vision. Hindi lang bibigyan ng pagkain yung mga gutom, kundi titingnan din natin yung pag-distribute ng food, saan nanggagaling ang pagkain, etc., etc. Okay, so it takes a lot of organizing. Change is also just prompted by external influences that challenge internal measures. There are things going on around you. For example, now, pandemic, we have to adapt to an online delivery mode of education. And so therefore, we need to translate what we used to do into something like 1 hour class before face-to-face to get translate into 1 hour class online. But we need to move from change or translating what we do into transformation, meaning something that's rooted in our beliefs and values that dictate action and direction. So you're not just reacting to the things and impetus around you, but you're actually looking inside and asking yourself, given the context around me, what do I want to do guided by my values and my beliefs? So you're not just reacting, ay sumigaw siya, gusto ko rin siyang sigawan, sisigaw ako. Hindi, sumisigaw siya, babalik ako sa loob ko, tatanungin ko yung sarili ko, knowing what I value and what I believe, gusto ko rin bang sumigaw? Okay, so it's different. It's not reacting to an external impetus, allowing your internal measures to be challenged, but it's actually going back to your values and your roots and building from there. Change is also a specific response to evolving assumptions, because now that we are discovering new things, the pandemic has uncovered so many things about us. Now that we are uncovering a lot of information, knowledge, and the internet is allowing us to have this deluge of information in one click. Change is reacting to that. But transformation is about foundational shifts, is about evolving our beliefs. No domestication of texts, no domestication of truths, domestication of beliefs, but rather talking about them and understanding them in the context of the shifting time. Yung sinasabi ko, there is norm shift, and so therefore, what do we need to ask? What do I really desire? But given my desires, what will my desire result to or accomplish? Change is measured in pivots. You hear a lot about this in the pandemic, pivot quickly because we need to react immediately to the changing environment. But transformation is not just pivoting. Okay, I'll adjust this way, parang tabingi yung frame, so igalaw ng konti. But transformation is values-driven strategy. It's strategy building. It's looking at all the input, output, outcome, impact, and being driven by values so that we'll be able to transform what's going on. Hindi lang nagbabago pero lumalampas, di ba? May paglampas sa pagbabago. And lastly, change values what we measure. That's why if you look at a lot of business formula, business theories, they talk a lot of measuring performance, efficiency, etc. Because change values what we can measure, because what we can measure dictates how far we have changed. But transformation measures what we value. Ano ba talaga ang mahalaga? At the very heart of the changing world around us, how do I maintain what I value, what I care about, and what is front and center in my mission? While I'm not saying that change is bad, because these things are efficiency oriented, these things are very important so that we maintain being able to provide the services required of us. Transformation is a bigger challenge. And that is where leadership will have to come in, because a manager can respond to change, but a leader is what is being challenged in transformation. So transformation, now that we're talking about it, let me offer you 4 kinds, okay? Transformation as reimagining. What this is it's creating something new. Looking at all the things that are in the world right now, maybe there's something that's not yet there. So reimagine what are these things, reimagine your life, the world, and put something new there. But transformation could also be reform. Just taking stock of what you already have and then forming them, creating new collaborations, connections, so that something new is formed. Transformation is also resistance. It's standing against destruction, standing against the destruction of those we hold dear. Because there is a threat that's destroying the things that we value. Transformation is creating things to resist that. And ultimately, transformation could also be revolution. It's completely vanquishing what is perceived to be oppressive. Kung meron tayong nakikitang oppressive force that is ruining our lives, that is producing unjust situations or harming us, then transformation is strategically building our plans towards complete vanquishment of the oppressive force. So this is what transformation is all about. The world needs to change, but our attitude towards change has to change first. And what does that mean? It means we need a lot of reorganization. Transition signifies a reorganization. After all, what this pandemic is offering is spring cleaning. Okay, finally we realize that there are things that we can actually live without in our closets, in our things that we need at home, in our consumer-driven economy. May mga bagay na hindi kailangan, because if there's one thing that the pandemic taught us, it's to live with the basic and necessary things. Okay, but we have to deal with the potential discomfort. And this potential discomfort might be addressed by what I call stakeholder engagement, or what this topic this afternoon is all about: collaborative communication and creativity in change. What is stakeholder engagement? It's basically just a systematic approach to ensure expectations, decisions, risk, issues, project progress information is delivered to the right person at the right time in the most efficient and effective level of information. So in other words, ang pinakamainam na ikaw na tatanggap na hamon ng nagbabagong mundo. Ayan. So stakeholder engagement. According to Tim Mills, a lecturer in Northeastern University, sabi niya, stakeholder management is figuring out how to effectively communicate, collaborate, and interact with key people who have positive or negative influence and may impact the success of your endeavor. Ganun lang siya kasimple. Sino ang gusto mong tumanggap ng mensahe at paano mapagbabago ang mga nangyayari sa lipunan dahil sa collaboration ninyong dalawa. Okay? And to better understand this, let's approach it differently. And the way I'd like to approach this is perhaps to talk about the components of a crime. Ayan, okay? What makes a crime? Krimen. Ayan. There are 3 things that make up a crime. MMO. Means, motive, opportunity. Okay? Hindi mangyayari ang isang krimen kung wala ang tatlong ito. Kung wala kang means, paraan, motive, dahilan, opportunity, pagkakataon. So, paraan, dahilan, at pagkakataon. Yan din, kahit sa pag-ibig, ganyan din naman. Paraan, dahilan, at pagkakataon. Ang daming paraan, pero wala namang pagkakataon. Ang daming dahilan para umibig, pero wala namang paraan. Ang daming pagkakataon, pero wala ka namang nahanap na dahilan, at wala ka rin namang paraan. And means are the tools and methods that you use to commit the crime. Motive are the reasons. Opportunity are the occasion that presents itself. In our stakeholder management, means is simply looking out who are our stakeholders and finding out our systems and spheres of influence and information that may affect our engagement with them. Paraan ng pakikipag-usap sa kanila. Motive is going back to our BHAG or our big, hairy, audacious goal. Ayan. How does it look like when we have achieved what we wanted to achieve successfully? So, bakit ito yung mga the big why of all? Bakit mo gagawin yan? Kasi it's one thing to have means, may paraan ka. Pero bakit? Di ba? Ba't ko gagawin yun? Kaya ko, pero bakit? Ayan, lagi nating itanong yan. Kaya mo bang gawin to? Oo, kaya ko, pero bakit? Yan. Kaya mo ba akong tulungan dito sa homework ko? Oo, kaya, pero bakit kita tutulungan? Di ba? May ganon. So, iba yung kaya sa may dahilan. Pero iba din yung kaya at may dahilan, pero wala namang pagkakataon. Ayan. Kayang-kaya mo. May dahilan ka, pero may pagkakataon ba? Ito yung 4 na uri ng tao. Di ba? May mga tao na kayang-kaya at gustong-gusto. Walang problema. These are the people we want in our circles. They can do it, they're very able, and they're very willing. Okay, so able and willing. But there are also people who are very able, pero nakakainis dahil alam mong kayang-kaya naman nila, pero very unwilling, ayaw. Kaya pero ayaw. Okay. So pag kaya pero ayaw, anong hinahanap natin dito? Motivation. Kulang sa motive. Bakit? Pag-usapan, halika nga dito po tayo. Alam mo namang talented ka, competent ka, pero bakit ayaw? Bakit hindi mo gustong gawin? Kulang sa motivation, pag-usapan. There are people who are very willing and motivated, gustong-gusto talaga. Marami tayong nakakasama sa videoke ng ganito, di ba? Gustong-gustong kumanta, pero very unable. Gustong-gusto, pero hindi kaya. So in other words, walang kakayahan. So what do we do in this situation? Enable them, give them training, give them competency building, increase their capacity, reorchestrate their channels. Tulungan natin silang makayanan ang kanilang ginugusto. Di ba? May mga nag-aagaw ng mic sa videoke dahil gustong-gusto pero hindi naman kaya. And then merong pang-4 na tao yung hindi gusto at hindi naman kaya. Yung ayaw nila at wala din naman silang kakayahang gawin yon. So anong ginagawa natin dito? We just inform them of what's available to them and tell them that maybe convince them of what the consequence of yes will be like, and which I will discuss about later. So means, motive, opportunity. Okay? And if you understand all those 3, then you may go into the 6 kinds of engagement as you deal with your members, with your students, in whatever organization you may be. If you try to map out your stakeholders, you may identify 6 ways of engaging with them. There are among your stakeholders that you only need to monitor. So pay attention to their actions, you listen to their posts, you do a scanning of their social media. Kumbaga, ano lang, you just keep yourself abreast with what's going on with their life. But there are also members of your audience, stakeholders, members that you need to target in terms of messaging and create a message that's specific to them. Meron kang mensaheng gustong ipaabot sa kanila. Okay. Always, ang example ko dito ay yun, pag-ibig nga, di ba? Mga gustong magka-jowa. May mga tao na in your circle of friends na gusto mo lang updated ka sa buhay nila. So nanonood ka lang ng mga my day nila, nagsuscroll ka sa mga Facebook nila, monitor lang. Pero may mga taong gusto mong i-message talaga. Uy, kumusta ka na? Or parang yung sinasabi ng mga kabataan ngayon na slide into their DMs. Ayan. Yung bigla ka nalang mag-a-appear sa mga direct message nila and kahit mga uncalled for yata minsan. Di ko alam, matanda na ako, hindi marunong mag-slide into the DM, pero offensive yata. Offensive ba yun sa mga kabataan? Offensive yata, yun yung bigla ka nalang, hindi naman kayo friends, pero bigla ka nag-message na parang, uy, ang ganda naman ng t-shirt, or ang ganda naman ng whatever, ganyan, or ang ganda nung pinagbakasyonan mong place, saan yan, magkano dyan, etc. From what I'm hearing from yung mga pamangkin ko, hindi cool ang bigla na lang mag-slide into someone's DM. Lalo pa yung iba ay feeling close. So kailangan you have to craft your message. You have to target your message well. And there are also members of your stakeholders that you need to advocate for. Anong ibig sabihin nito? Kailangan i-champion mo ang cause nila. Yung ipaglaban mo sila. Ayan. Ipaglaban mo ang mga bagay na pinaglalaban nila. Even in your friends, di ba, may mga ganito. Yung talagang gusto mong mag-enlist sa kanilang mission or sila i-enlist into your mission for a specific cause, effort, or advocacy. So, hindi mo lang sila minomonitor, hindi ka lang panood-nood ng my day nila, hindi ka lang nagme-message sa kanila, pero gusto mo talaga silang ipaglaban. May mga ganun, hindi. Talagang, ito yung mga taong pag pumunta sa inyo at sinabing, oh my gosh, may nagawa akong krimen, ikaw yung tipong kaibigan na, tara, saan tayo unang makikipaglaban? Di ba? Yung sila yung paglalaban natin. Meron din, in your constituents, ayan, may mga nakarelate yata na masaya. Meron naman na kinoconsult natin. These are what we call probably the gurus in our circle of interest, circle of influence, among our friends na pag meron tayong problema or meron tayong gustong itanong o i-consult, may kaibigan ako na parang alam niya yung map talaga ng buong Maynila. Kaya pag nagmamaneho at hindi ko alam kung saan i-exit or saan pupunta, tatawagan ko siya. Uy, nandito ako sa ganito sa Maynila. Saan nga ba? Paano lumabas dito? May ganyan, di ba? May mga kaibigan tayong kinoconsult natin. Literal yung iba dahil mga doktor yung mga kaibigan natin. Sila yung gusto nating tanungin about, oy, safe ba yung ganito? Ganyan. Pwede bang, may mga ganito akong nararamdaman. Ano ibig sabihin? Literal, the consultation yon. But there are people who we consider as mentors, elders. We value their wisdom, and so we consult with them. And then there are also people in our stakeholders, in our spheres, in our circle of friends that we want to engage and dialogue with to provide solutions, come up with new ideas. May mga taong ang sarap lang silang kausapin, di ba, mga kaibigan natin na ang sarap lang kausapin kasi after nyo mag-usap, may plano na agad kayo, may nabuo na agad kayo, meron na agad kayong gustong gawin. May mga ganitong tao tayong nakakausap na parang after natin silang kausapin, uy, ba't parang after natin silang makausap, merong project na nabuo. Ayan. Nag-coffee lang tayo, meron na tayong plano to save the world, yung mga ganyan. So we want to dialogue with them to get their opinion, to get their ideas. May mutual learning na nagaganap. Kaya identify who among your friends ang every time kausap mo sila, natututo ka talaga. Di ba parang iba din tong si person X na kaibigan ko, no? Pagkausap ko siya, parang umaalis ako sa usapan na may nabaon naman akong bago. Parang ganon. And there are those also among our stakeholders who can, who are very willing that they can collaborate with us quickly. In other words, we share our work with them. We have common objectives. We share the mission. even the way we execute, we want to co-execute it with them, etc. Ito yung mga gusto nating partner sa mga projects or mga gusto nating open tayo ng YouTube channel, mga ganyan. So, or gawa tayo ng project together, sosyo tayo sa negosyo, mga ganyan. We want to collaborate with them. So these are 6 engagements that I hope you're able to identify among your stakeholders, especially during the pandemic. We need to identify what kind of engagement we need to do with them. And so, given this, I'd like to continue talking about stakeholder engagement. I have 10 tips to be able to do engagement well. And I'm hoping na makatulong ito as we engage our stakeholders in this new normal, in this different normal that we are experiencing. First, we've always been talking about this right from the start, embrace the new mindset. Walang mangyayari kung nagre-resist tayo. Hindi, ano lang to, temporary lang to, babalik na tayo sa face-to-face. Hindi, balik na kayo sa classroom. Even if all of a sudden, CHED allows us to go back to our classrooms for face-to-face, there are a lot of things to consider. Social distancing, for example. Our cafeterias, for example. Entering and exiting our campuses. A lot of fittings and retrofittings will have to be done. Our classrooms, which used to handle maybe 30 or 40 people, will have to adjust to a smaller, socially distanced population. And of course, even the way we enter and exit offices, the way we say hi and hello to one another, the way we always protect our air spaces, our common spaces, even our air conditioning, even the way we wash our hands, even the way we behave in spaces, all of these things will have to be addressed. And so therefore, we need to embrace the new mindset. Di ba, hindi ko alam kung nakita ninyo yung mga pictures from Thailand. Sumubok silang bumalik sa face-to-face, pero yung mga estudyante, pinagsuot nila ng meter stick sa ulo or sa likod, sa katawan, para automatic hindi nagkakalapit sa bawat isa. Gusto ba natin yon? I know there are better ways of resuming our normal. Pero again, we need to embrace the new mindset. We need to reimagine life in the different normal. Pangalawa, respond with empathy in this new environment. Always respond with empathy. Empathize. Ayan, di ba? Ano ibig sabihin nito? In Jesuit, in Ignatian paradigm, it's called compassion, mercy. Ayan, entering into the chaos of another. Di ba? Bago ka magsalita, maglakad ka muna sa sapatos at mga paa niya. Okay? Makiramdam. Hindi yung unang salita pa lamang niya, kinokorek mo na. Or unang salita pa lamang, ina-advisean mo na agad. No, empathize first. Makiramdam, tingnan muna kung saan siya nanggagaling at kung bakit niya sinasabi ng mga bagay na sinasabi niya. Okay? Empathize. So embrace, empathize. Pangatlo, shift to value and essentials. In other words, take inventory and take stock of what you have and then go back to the basics, go back to what you value, go back to the essentials. Diba? Ibig sabihin, look at what you have and see what you can park for a while. I-pack muna yan, ilagay mo na yan dun sa attic, itago mo na yan, hindi mo na yan kailangan. Bare necessities, ika nga sa Jungle Book, dun muna tayo sa bare necessities, bare essentials, diba? Skeletal, balik muna sa kung ano talaga ang mahalaga. Pang-apat, actively contribute to safety. And I think this is very important. During this pandemic, during this different normal, our stakeholders will need to see us as always actively contributing to safety. So organizations, leaders, student affairs practitioners, always ask yourself, today, paano ako nakatulong at nakakontribute to safety by innovating and offering solutions, especially to our student affairs practitioners, no, and to our student organizations. How are we able to actively contribute to safety? Kasi dahil nga, ang volatile ng ating mundo at ang nangyayari, we need to be always assured that for every time we allow ourselves to be part of a group or listen or enlist in something, there has to be that guarantee of safety. So orgs must always actively contribute to safety, safe spaces, and well-being of people. Safe spaces is a priority. Okay. Panglima, provide pragmatic help to those in distress. Ayan. Not only do we actively contribute to safety, but we need to identify among us who are those who are in distress, lost, helpless, medyo nahihirapan, and provide pragmatic help. Tulungan sila. Nakikita mo na ang mga miyembro mo or mga estudyante mo or mga kasama mo ay nahihirapan, nagkakasakit, natutuliro, pero ang mga ginagawa mo pa rin ay hindi at walang kinalaman sa pwedeng matulungan sila. 'Di ba? I think there's a meme of the Kardashians na parang may ginagawa si Kim and then yung isang Kardashian nagsabi na parang like people are literally dying. Parang may mga namamatay na mga tao tapos ganyan yung ginagawa mo. Parang nasan yung reality check. So provide pragmatic help to those in distress. May mga nangangailangan ng tulong, tulungan natin sila whenever we can. Of course, the caveat there is whenever we can. We are not being called to solve all the problems in the world. But to those we can provide solutions to, we must. Hindi ka tinatawag para sagipin ang buong mundo. Pero sa mga problemang may kaya kang gawing tugon, tinatawag kang tumugon. Malinaw dapat yun. Pang-anim, bring joy and support the emotional needs of your stakeholders. Huwag din naman natin kalimutan na kasama din sa ginagawa nating stakeholder engagement, collaborative communication, is to bring joy. Sana mabigyan din natin sila ng, ang lagi kong tinatanong sa aking mga kasama sa trabaho, for example, lagi kong sinasabi sa kanila, either on a morning email or before we end the day, tinatanong ko sa kanila, is it still life-giving? Nagbibigay buhay pa ba yung mga ginagawa natin? Masaya pa ba kayo? Diba? Bring joy, because in the context that we're in right now, we need to always go back to what is giving us life. Sa amin, although pabiro, pero every time may mga meeting kami sa office, for example, ang mga byline, ang mga goodbye messages is stay alive, ganyan, bawal mamatay, bawal mamaalam, parang go back to what brings life, ayan, kapit sa buhay, laban lang mga sis, mga ganon. So, it always go back to what brings joy. Kahit madilim ang ating nararanasan, don't forget that it's always about the light. Whether you find it or make it or be it, maging liwanag. And that's the invitation, no? In the darkness, it's 'di ba yung mantra ng Namfrel, it's always better to light a candle than curse the darkness. Mas mabuti pang magsindi ng kandila kaysa murahin ang kadiliman. 'Di ba? At least nakapagbigay ka ng liwanag. 7, stay reachable and treat your stakeholders with care. I think hindi naman na kailangang ipaalala pa ito. In the pandemic, dapat laging alam ng inyong mga stakeholders saan kayo mahahanap, at pag nahanap kayo, handle things with care. Diba? Merong sensitivity, merong grace, merong comfort, merong care. Handle things with care. Kasi hindi ko na kailangang sabihin na dahil sa pandemic na ito, ang fragile nating lahat, ang sensitive nating lahat, di ba? Lalo pa that what social media is giving us is a constant reminder that every day we are losing people we love. And so parang nakaka-agitate siya, nakaka-fragile siya, nakakapanlumo. And so we always have to at least offer availability of a helping hand and always deal with people with care. Yung sinasabi ni John Lloyd na ingat, no, di ba? Ingat. In Bisaya, amping Ayan, hindi ko alam kung ano ba ang ingat sa Bicolano. Ayan, baka pwede nyo i-share sa chat. Number 8, reorchestrate your channels. This is very important. Saan ka nahanap? Saan pwedeng pindutin para makausap ka? Ano yung mga channels, platforms that you allow yourself to be made available? Nobody will know if things are for sale if you don't put it out the window. Parang sa ano din yan. Kung gusto mong mahanap ka ng pag-ibig, ayan, magpahanap ka naman. Know that what you are searching for and what you're serving is always searching for you. Ang hinahanap mo ay hinahanap ka din. So reorchestrate your channels. Ibig sabihin, make sure that you take inventory of where you may allow yourself to be available. Yung sinasabi mong on a mission ka pero hindi ka naman nahahanap. Yung sinasabi mong, oo, tutulong ako pero nasan ka? Di ba? Reorchestrate your channels. Launch them again. Gusto lang natin ipaalala sa ating mga miyembro na nandito tayo. Always remind them where you are available, and what's available for them. Di ba? So magkakaibigan, kahit wala namang nangyayari, kahit di tayo nag-uusap, lagi nating sinasabing, oy friend, nandito lang ako ah. Ayan. Nasaan ba yung andito na yan? We need to identify what those are. Platforms, channels, streams of availability, collaborative platforms, etc. Number 9, personalize and customize. Ayan. It is very important. This is the secret to Starbucks success. Kailangan nilang hingin ang iyong pangalan at isigaw sa buong mundo na, hoy, eto na ang iyong kape na in-order mo sa amin. It creates that psychological relationship with, di ba, parang yung iba gusto mong nandoon. And also, yan din di umano, ang dahilan kung bakit minamali talaga yung spelling ng pangalan mo sa Starbucks. Kasi it allows you to start a conversation or be engaged with them and be reminded na pagbalik ko, i-correct ko yung pangalan ko. Oy, barista, next time ha, yung Nicole ko may H bawat letra. NHICHOLEH yan ha, nagkakamali ka lagi, ganyan. So, personalize and customize. What does this do? It allows relationships to be formed. It allows loyalty to the community, to the brand. It allows personal caring, di ba? Ang sarap na matawag sa pangalan. Ang sarap na yung service na binigay sa iyo, halimbawa for your members, kung yung mga orgs natin dyan, ito nakita ko sa mga orgs namin sa Ateneo de Manila, no? Meron silang hinahanda na at the start of the year may mga starter kit na nandoon yung mga kailangan mong malaman, mga plano for the year, saan mo pwedeng puntahan, etc. May starter kit at nakapangalan, isa-isa talaga. Hi, Julia. We are starting another year. Thank you for staying with us in this organization. Here are some websites, things that you may need as we go about our business in the org for the year. So may starter kit na parang, ay, oo, miyembro pa talaga ako ng org na ito, etc., etc. And this is a digital kit that they can download, they can look into, etc. Some orgs do stories, yung mga My Day nila sa Facebook or stories sa Facebook, at may parang pa-yearbook ng kanilang mga membership, isa-isa, parang ito yung mga bago nating members. Ayan, so may mga My Day sila. Ito si Carmen at mahilig siyang magganito, ganyan-ganyan. So may mga personalization, customization, and it works. Okay? Yung mga pa-birthday greetings sa inyong mga Twitter accounts, it's important. It allows them to feel na despite the digital world that we live in, there are things that don't change, like greeting one another, happy birthday. Especially dahil nag-greet na lang tayo ngayon dahil nire-remind tayo ni Facebook. Minsan parang gusto natin hindi isulat yung birthday natin sa Facebook at i-off yung mga posts natin sa Facebook para makita talaga kung sino yung nakakaalala at mag-private message sa atin na, uy, happy birthday, parang ganyan. Iba talaga yung personal ang encounter. And number 10, demonstrate care for the community. Hindi lang individual care. I think it's also very important that in everything that we do, it demonstrates care for the community, the environment, the people. And what I'd like to translate this into or understand this in the context of nationalism and nation building. It's very important that for organization to engage their stakeholders, they care for the issues that matter to the community. Minsan hindi tayo nakikialam sa mga certain groups and organizations dahil hindi natin nakikita anong advocacy nila or we don't see them caring for the things that we care for. Diba? If I am a member of your community, you should also care for the things that I'd like to fight for. So dapat there should be fora, there should be dialogue, there should be communication. I would like to be able to see if our mission is together. If you are in this with me, if what I'm fighting for, if I'm trying to build a nation, I hope you too are trying to build a nation. The reason why my personal advocacy is in youth development and youth organization formation is because I believe better student leaders and better student orgs create better citizenry. Why? Because youth empowerment is what creates a better citizenry, and a better citizenry is what builds a nation. And so therefore, better orgs, better org projects, better student leaders, better student affairs formation will yield a better citizenry and a better nation. So naniniwala tayo na ang ginagawa natin sa parang araw-araw ay hindi hiwalay sa ginagawa natin para bumuo ng isang mas matatag na bansa. So yung pagkausap natin sa mga members, paggawa natin ng mga programs, we are creating a better country. Okay? Dalawang uri ng tao, parehong nagwawalis ng simbahan. Yung isa tinanong, anong ginagawa mo? Sabi niya, nagwawalis ng simbahan. Yung isa tinanong, anong ginagawa mo? Ang sagot niya, pinupuri ang Panginoon. Pareho ng tungkulin, naglilinis ng simbahan, pero magkaiba ng pananaw. Yung isa, ang nakikita lang niya ay ang trabaho. Pero yung isa, ang nakikita niya ay ang impact ng trabaho. Okay? Na hindi lamang siya naglilinis, pinupuri niya ang Panginoon sa pamamagitan ng pananatiling malinis ang simbahan. Same with us. We are leaders, orgs, practitioners, but what we're doing really is always in the context of creating a better nation, a better world, a better humankind, and a better humanity. So those are 10 things that I'd like to share with you in the context of work experience, in the context of student engagement. And perhaps what this all means is if there's one concrete advice I'd like to give you is to communicate in small but impactful vignettes. In other words, create stories that personalize what you hope to achieve in the community. Laging magkwento. Change narratives, change narratives. Ang mga kwento natin ay laging nakakapagbago. As student leaders, we are always invited to tell our story. What's yours? You need to be able to find out what your story is all about. And also, most importantly, do not put the burden on your stakeholders. Huwag sa kanila ipataw ang trabaho ng paghahanap sa inyo. Yung meron akong na-encounter na opisina, sabi ko, pwede ko bang malaman kung ano yung mga programs na available sa office ninyo para ma-share namin sa mga estudyante namin? Ang sinagot sa akin ay, hanapin mo na lang sa manual at sa website namin. Parang ako pa okay, ito na nga ako, naghihingi na nga ako ng tulong. Ako pa yung pupunta at gagawa pa ng mga bagay para mahanap ko. When you could have easily engaged with me and said, oh yes, this is what we can do, this is what we can offer, etc. Diba? The lesser number of clicks, the better. What do you call this? Yung philosophy in business and even in government, that there is no wrong door. Anong ibig sabihin ng there is no wrong door? kahit saang opisina dapat pumasok ang isang stakeholder or client or estudyante, hindi mo sasabihin, ay, nasa maling opisina ka. Kung hindi, ang sagot mo ay, sige, gahanapan kita ng pwedeng tumulong sa'yo. So halimbawa, ang hinahanap ko ay, ang tanong ko ay tungkol sa scholarship. Pero pumasok ako sa opisina ng International Affairs. Ayan. Hindi nila sasabihin, ay, punta ka sa room COSCA 202, ganyan-ganyan. But rather, sige, sandali ha, tatawagin ko lang yung opisina, tatanungin ko kung paano ka pwedeng tulungan. Okay. There are no wrong doors, but rather opportunities for them to be taught of how to do it properly. Don't shut the door in people's faces because they mistakenly entered into your office. Hindi na, ay, hindi sa amin yan. Hindi po. We are one in this mission. Tulong-tulong tayo. Isang komunidad lang. Okay? Walang sagot na hindi po, wala po kaming kinalaman dyan. Iisa ang misyon. Ang sagot ay, teka lang, sandali, kakausapin ko lang yung pwedeng makatulong sa'yo. Okay? Ayan. Di ba? Okay. To close, medyo ang haba na yata, nakailang minutes na ba ako? I would just like to close with a little 10 tips to reimagine courage in this new pandemic. And hopefully, may makuha. Again, if you like a copy of the slides or you like to look at the slides in your mobile devices, you may just scan the QR code on your screen and you'll find a copy of my presentation. So here are 10 ways. Kanina, 10 ways to engage. Ngayon naman, 10 ways to reimagine courage. Una, a little reminder to everyone. It doesn't have to be broken for it to be better. Huwag hintayin masira ang mga bagay-bagay para naising bumuti ito. Okay? And I don't think I have to explain that thoroughly kasi malinaw naman yata sa ating lahat yan. It doesn't have to be broken for it to be better. A broken thing needs to be fixed. But for it to be better, it doesn't have to be broken. Hindi kailangang sira muna ang bagay para hanapan kung paano pa ito mapabuti. Pangalawa, invite all perspectives. It's very important that in what you do as leaders and practitioners and in the world that we live in now, it's very important that we sit across table with people who may not always necessarily agree with the things that we value and believe in. It's very important that we listen to different perspectives. When I was younger and when I was contemplating and discerning of becoming a student leader, I approached a mentor who asked me immediately when I said, should I run for office in the student council? Back many years ago. And the mentor said, handa ka bang marinig ang katotohanan ng hindi napipikon? Handa ba tayong marinig ang katotohanan ng hindi napipikon? Because it's very important that when facts are presented, okay, we listen to facts and we invite all perspective. It's also very important to see things from where people are standing, to see things from where they are, and maybe expand our horizon. Okay? Sana hindi tayo mapikon sa mga bagay na totoo naman. Halimbawa, ang Pilipinas, kita-kita natin sa mga social media. Clearly, maraming tao ang hindi pa handang marinig ang katotohanan ng hindi napipikon. So we need to practice listening to differing perspectives. Pangatlo, I see this again a lot in the social media. Rant less, organize more. Insisting that something shouldn't be will not change what is. It will take a lot of organizing. Kung yung energy mo sana na binuhos mo sa pagrarant at pagrereklamo, binuhos mo sa pag-organize ng mga bagay, din sana nakatulong. Again, it's better to light a candle than curse the darkness. Diba? Rant less, organize more. Pang-apat, ito din yung kanina na sinabi ko, always tell a story. People don't fall in love with things. They fall in love with the stories behind it.
Di ba, kumita dito yung Jollibee nung Valentine's a few years ago, nung naglabas sila ng mga Valentine stories ng kwento. Although, yes, pinakita nila na at the end of the day, yung nagbibenta talaga sila ng burger, pero all of a sudden, hindi na lang burger yon. All of a sudden, pag nagbigay ka ng Yum Burger to someone, it's an act of love, of caring, because what Jollibee sold us on is the story behind it. Yung magjowa na nag-iiwan na ng post-it, di ba? At may Jollibee, yung mga ganyan. So always tell a story because that's how you give buy-in to people. Tell your story. So what does that presuppose? It presupposes that you also know what your story is. Kilalanin mo kung sino ka. Anong kwento mo? Anong monologue mo sa buhay? Pag nagkaroon ng pa-video birthday sa'yo, ano kayang laman ng pa-video birthday na yon? Diba? Hi, ako si Tats at ito lang naman yung kwento ko. Diba? Ano yung mga lessons mo in life? Ano yung mga kailangang malaman, etc. Always tell a story. Kahit saan, laging may kwento. Diba? Yung pangungumusta natin ng mga Pilipino, oy, kumusta? It's an invitation for you to tell your story. Panglima, position your offer as a solution. If you are gonna tell people something that they're supposed to do, always make sure that it's offered as a solution. What does that mean? You always tell them what it is solving or what it is responding to. Oy, kumuha ka ng isang basong tubig. Kung hindi niya alam kung bakit siya kukuha ng isang basong tubig, baka hindi niya gawin. But if you tell them dahil nauuhaw ka, gagawin niya. Or you tell them na may kailangan kang apoy na patayin ng isang basong tubig, baka magmadali pa siya. Offer your position as a solution. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, yung nagsulat ng The Little Prince, sabi niya, if you want people to build a boat with you, don't just talk to them about tools, budgets, or plans, but also make them feel your passion for the sea. Kung gusto mong sumama sila sa'yo dahil meron kang gustong gawin, dapat ramdam din nila kung bakit ginagawa natin ang misyon. Diba? Make them feel your passion for the sea. If you want them to build a boat with you, make them feel your passion for the sea. Ipakita. That's also the key to empowerment. The highest level of empowerment, yung hindi mo na kailangang sabihin at utusan, gagawin na nila. Dahil nakita na, they were able to stand where you're standing. And so they're able to see what you're seeing. And because they're seeing what you're seeing, hindi na kailangang utusan, sila na mismo magkukusang loob na gawin ang mga bagay kasi pareho na kayo ng ninais marating. So position your offer as a solution. Pang-anim, and I'm also guilty of this, no, sometimes pride gets in the way. Never condemn anyone who calls you out to be better than you are. Minsan masakit na mapagsabihan or may mga taong mapanghamon sa ating kakayahan. And minsan when our inner saboteur, our insecurities, that little devil inside, they mess with our minds. May gustong i-correct ang ginawa nating mali or merong nag-challenge sa atin to be better than we are. What we do is we condemn them, we criticize them. Di ba, na parang gusto mo silang sabihin na marami ka namang pwedeng gawin sana bilang ganito, bilang presidente. Paano hinarap yung mga ganong criticism? Ikaw din, marami ka ding mali. Ayan, nag-retaliate. Kayo din, ganyan. Di ba? Imbis na makinig, sift through the criticism and find what's valuable. Tantum quantum, sabi ni San Ignacio. Insofar as kung makakatulong sa'yo, edi i-pick up. Kung hindi makakatulong, then park it. Diba? Hindi para sa'yo. Okay? But never condemn anyone who calls you to be better than you are. Especially if, una, kilala ka niya at may pakialam sila sa'yo. Ayan, ito yung mga taong una nating pinapakinggan. Kilala ka niya at may pakialam sila sa'yo. Okay? Pangalawa, may mga taong hindi nila tayo kilala personally, pero may pakialam sila sa ginagawa natin. So pakinggan din natin sila. Di man nila tayo kilala personally, but they care for the mission. Okay? Pero may mga taong kilala tayo personally, pero wala silang pakialam sa atin. Take it with a grain of salt. Parang, okay, kilala mo nga ako, pero wala ka namang pakialam sa akin. Ba't ako makikinig sa'yo, di ba? And then pang-apat, ito na yung mga scums of the internet. Ito yung mga nasa comment section ng YouTube. People who don't know you and who don't care for you. Okay? So they are just trolls who just want to mess up with you and destroy your day, or gusto lang talagang manira ng damdamin at puri. Diba? Hindi ka nila kilala, wala silang pakialam sa'yo, edi wala ka rin pakialam sa kanila. Diba? Set them aside. But know that when people calls you to be better than you are, and they know you and they care for you, or even if they don't know you but they care for you, listen to them. Do not condemn them right away. They may have some grain of truth. Again, handa ka na bang handa ka na bang hindi mapikon pag narinig mo ang katotohanan? 7, shake things up. Comfort is scary. Comfort is debilitating. The status quo must always be questioned. Otherwise, walang mangyayari. We all die. Okay? Leave the status quo to the ones who are not revolutionary. I saw this in a billboard in a store when I was walking pre-pandemic in Singapore, sa isang mall sa Singapore. Ang laki nakasulat. Leave the status quo to the ones who are not revolutionary. Iiwan mo ang kasanayan sa mga taong hindi kayang mangarap at naising baguhin ang mundo. Shake things up. Gumalaw-galaw, baka ma-stroke. Di ba? Baguhin ng konti. Always look at things from a different perspective. Di ba? Bird's eye view, from an ant's point of view, baliktarin ang picture, etc. Humanap ng bago, alog-alogin ng konti kasi baka may mga nakakatulog na. Number 8, respect the unexpected. Sometimes we call this grace. We always leave room for grace. Allow the Holy Spirit to do its work. Hayaan din minsan na magulat din tayo sa buhay. Allow yourself to be startled from time to time. Sana nagugulat pa rin tayo. Sana nagugulantang pa rin tayo. Sana may mga bagay pa rin na nakakamangha pa rin sa atin. Kasi kung wala ang lungkot naman, nawala na yung sense of wonder. Di ba? Sana nahihinto pa rin tayo dahil minsan ang ganda ng bagsak ng sunlight. Minsan pagising natin, gusto pa rin nating matuwa kasi parang ang ganda ng mga huni ng mga ibon, or ang sarap ng ating agahan, or uy, may nag-surprise na kaibigan, or ang tagal ko nang hindi naririnig yung kantang yan sa radyo, or may nagbabalik na dating akala mo na hindi mo na makikita muli. Allow things to pop up, surprise you from time to time, and respect them for entering your life at that point in time. May ibig sabihin pa rin ang pagkakagulantang. I believe in cosmic timing. And sometimes it's important na we realize, to be thankful dahil na-miss natin yung train or naiwan tayo ng bus. Yung mga ganun. Or sabi ni Panginoong Beyonce, the best thing we never had. Yan. Mga bagay na ay salamat at hindi naging ikaw, or mga ganyan, di ba? Ay salamat, iba yung timing ng mundo sa akin. That means we allow grace and the Holy Spirit. At the end of the day, may kamay pa rin ang Panginoon, or kung anuman ang pinaniniwalaan mo sa buhay, there is an order to the universe, and we need to respect that. 9, safety perception increases risk appetite. The more people feel safe around you, the more your members feel safe around you, the more you can invite them to take risks with you. So the very first thing is to make sense of their fears. May mga bagay na hindi talaga nawawala. Sometimes the fear does not disappear. So the best thing to do about it is to make sense of it. Courage is not the absence of fear. Instead, it's the resilience to go through things despite. Sometimes we need to do things scared. Sometimes we need to do things with our voices shaking, our knees shaking, our hands cold. So what do we do when these things happen? We need to tell each other stories of courage, stories of hope, stories of love. We need to be able to increase our risk appetite by caring and increasing our safety perception. Especially in a world where it feels like the world outside is changing faster than what's going on inside. Pag hindi nagpantay ang pagbabago sa labas at yung kakayahan nating tumugon din sa pagbabago na yan sa loob, delikado ka na. Nako, delikado ka na. Ayan. How are you gonna win if you're too scared to risk, diba? So, sabayan ang pagbabago. And for me, the ultimate weapon, just to end, this is probably one of my few last slides, it's always about love. And all these things that I've been talking about, collaborative communication, stakeholder engagement, reimagining courage, it's all about always coming from a place of love. Kaya naman tayo nandito dahil umuo tayo sa tawag ng pagmamahal, misyon na tumugon, at gumawa ng mga bagay-bagay, magtrabaho para sa pamilya, para sa anak, para sa bayan. It's never not about love. Okay? It's always about love. Kaso nga lang, it's always about love, but sometimes it's always about us searching for a perfect kind of love. Yes, it's always about love, pero ang daming naghahanap ng perfect. Kaya ang dami ring nahihirapan pag pinag-uusapan ang pag-ibig. Kasi in our search for the perfect pair of shoes, we sometimes lose sight and forget the joys of walking barefoot. Sa paghahanap natin ng perfect pair na sapatos, nakalimutan natin na minsan napakasarap kaya ng kakayahang magpaa. Okay? In our search for perfection, we forget about the perks of being imperfect, of always wanting to deal with progress. Progress, not perfection. And this is my love note. On that note, I always end my sharings, my talks with a little love note to those who had time to listen to me. And because all of these things, the ultimate invitation is love. Let me just share this love note, that love is not hard to find. Love is everywhere. The tragedy of loneliness, marami sa atin nalulungkot, the tragedy of loneliness only ravages the hearts of those who are looking for a specific kind of love. Nahihirapan kasi ang specific po ng hinahanap. Yung specificity, yung hinahanap natin na perfect dahil it is defined by our understanding, our imagination, limited by our own experience, set by our own specific expectations, defined by our history, etc. Yung meron tayong pag nagmahal ako, ang daming dapat. Ayan, di ba? We often say there are a lot of things that I expect if I'm gonna love, but we know that always it's gonna be an exemption. One cannot find love by looking at something they thought they might recognize. Love happens to those who are open enough to be surprised by it. What you thought you were looking for is a pair of shoes that perfectly fits. But sometimes what love is an offer to go barefoot. Sometimes what love is an offer to go barefoot. For as long as you insist in looking for the perfect fit, you will not find what you are looking for. Sometimes, all you need to find love is the courage to change your perspective. Reimagine courage. If you can't find a loving gaze, look the other way. If what you are trying to achieve cannot be achieved today, if we don't get there today, we shall wake up and begin again tomorrow. And to borrow the words of Bishop Romero, we are workers, not master builders, ministers, not messiahs. We are prophets of a future, not our own. So this is the year of St. Ignatius at 500. So I hope for those who are following the life of Ignatius, you will allow Ignatius to speak to you and speak to the people around you. We will never know how far it will take those who get to cross the bridges we build. But our task is to just keep on building these bridges. Huwag itanong kung mahirap, itanong kung mahalaga. Kasi ang mahirap kung mahalaga, kinakaya. Maraming salamat at magandang hapon sa inyong lahat.